John, what do you think is the most important ingredient for survival for these people that are here to learn today? I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the most important skill for them to come away with?
You know, I'd hate to narrow it down to one skill, but I think the mistake most people make is they try to do too many things.
I've said this before, it's not how good you are at the complex things, it's how good you are at the simple things.
I think that if he isn't afraid of your initial attack, you're never going to get to the 2, 3, and 4 in a combination, right?
Right. Well, you got to have a very strong. Yeah, you have. Okay. Well, he has this. We know from competition, someone will say, oh, he has this or he has that. Well, the thing is, yeah, he's got that, but stop his low kick. You know.
That's it.
And the thing is, I think that we should tell everybody. I mean, you tell people, because a lot of people, you know, are tired of hearing it from me, but how many drills, how many repetitions does it take for someone to take a skill and make it really their own applicable skill that they can use? I think that most people don't realize that when we're not talking about simple basic things, like, for example, my stuff like the pop-up or the wedge, those are things that you've already learned.
Yeah.
You already trained yourself thousands of times to walk forward, hit angles, and that sort of thing, and together in a different sequence. But for totally new, you're doing then reversing to an Osoto, that sort of thing. People have got to understand out there that you are going to have to drill. You're not going to get this by watching us do it, or watching John, or watching whomever do it. It's not going to work like that. And also, doing it 5 times, it's not in you. It's not in you. And if you ever do it under stress, you don't have it. There's no, you force yourself to move when you're dead tired. You're going to do that same thing when you are scared, because you will lock a particular activating mechanism or system, RAM or ROS, whichever one you want to use, transfers that into your emotional limbic state. This is where you have to become a warrior, and I know you like to talk about that a lot. That we try to create warrior. Talk about ingredients that are lacking. You know, I mean, what keeps a normal person from being like us?
Great man. Well, he says, you know, if you want abnormal results, you can't think normally. You can't be normal and get abnormal results. You've got to be abnormal.
We got that part.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
that goes to say without saying.
We want abnormal results. You can't live like a normal person and get.
There's an Arabic quote that obviously I say in English, because not many people are going to understand it if I say in Arabic, but whatever. And that's, do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten.
Yeah.
Meaning, how do you expect something to change if you're not changing your protocols? Protocols is the more sophisticated, I have a PhD, word for changing your discipline of your mind. It's better to be around fellow warriors. It inculcates and indoctrinates and facilitates. It's very dangerous.
It's true. You start picking up on the characteristics of those people around you. I know Louis, for example, our powerlifting friend, you know, he doesn't want to be around weak people. He says, I hate weakness. I hate weakness. He just keeps away from it, you know.
Well, that's, you know, I mean, there's many, you know, you hang around criminals, you're going to become a criminal. And the same thing works here. War 1 and even in 2, I know that the fighter pilots, the better fighter pilots were the ones who had to use inferior equipment against better technology, because they had to, their skill level had to come up. They had to come up, so it became normal to have a higher skill level within that group. You know, it's like, why are the British such good fighter pilots? Well, they had to be. The Messerschmitts were technologically superiors for the little Spitfire to function. Well, they armor plated the underneath of them, so they'd flip over when they would attack Messerschmitts, because that was where their plating was at, and the little things are small, they buzz around like a mosquito and try to shoot down the Messerschmitts. I mean, this is a little bit of history here for other people. But warfare and unarmed fighting is really the same. Technology, skill, and will. And you can't, I mean, if you want to come up a level, and that's what we're talking about here, because we're not talking just tourist tapes right now, you have to devote some part of your being to it. And that can be 10 minutes a day, but whatever you do, make it part of your life. Change your life. Okay, so John, I'm going to talk about a lot of one of the things that I think that sticks out in my mind when I first met you is that what is it that you're trying to accomplish in the long run with what you're doing?
Coaching wise?
Well, coaching or your own personal your own personal experience or expression of, I guess, martial arts. I hate to use that term because we're so far from what most people think of martial arts now. But you know, what are you trying to do? I mean, I have my.
One of the things I'm trying to do is put together a systematic approach to training. You know, we were talking before. Any team that is consistently producing winners, regardless of the sport, they have kind of a system going. You know, it's not just.
It's not. It's because of their training protocols and technology that they're using. That, you know, Voss Gym and Majuro Gym and Chiriki are all turning out the champions of the world.
Exactly.
You know, I think it's important because a lot of people don't know that. You know,
what I try to do is create an atmosphere where our training, I liken it to the decathlon and track and field, and I've always said, you know, the best shot putter in the world isn't the best decathlete, you know, because you can't run the, what is it, a 440 or the 1500 meters or do the hurdles and the pole vault. He's horrible at those events. The decathlon usually comprised of 10 events, most of which are contradictory in nature. You know, when you train too hard on the running events, your shot put deteriorates and vice versa. You know, in all these 10 events, you know, you have some throwing events, but they're, you know, the javelin's a lot different than the
shot put.
Yeah, than the shot put. It's a whole lot different than a 1500 meter run and the 100 meter sprint, and so on. You have all these contradictory events, and I kind of think that's like fighting, especially mixed martial arts. You know,
or real fighting. I mean, or
real fighting, or mixed martial arts in the sporting world, but
which isn't really actually real fighting because there's a lot of things that it's left off. And if you were really fighting, I think you see a shift towards speed guys over power guys. If you're talking about getting to the eyes first, whoever got to the eyes first is definitely going to win, and that's going to shift back to a speed thing over.
Coaches weren't set, you know.
There
was an interchange.
They
helped each other, and they drew from. Even today, you see their freestyle wrestlers, you know, from an overhook or something, they'll be throwing an uchimata.
Well, didn't choking for those people who don't know.
But the thing that impressed me about the Soviet system is I read about it, and later I met the Polish national coach at the Olympic Training Center, Ryszard Zenio, and he would send me first of all, he outlined the program to me because
which is a big help.
I did something very nice once in my life. I took him up to Skagway Reservoir outside of Colorado Springs, up in the mountains, and spent a day showing him around. And didn't think anything about it, but he was very grateful, and he showed me the entire training system, mapped out their testing program, their yearly program, their multi-year program, the whole works over. I was so impressed with the Russian system, to make a long story short, because they didn't leave any stone unturned in their quest for excellence.